This episode is made possible by PwC. Hear that? That's the tax landscape changing. More complexity, more tech, more modernization. You need better data, better connectivity, better operations. At PwC, we're ready for what's next. Are you? Elevate tax. Multiply value with PwC. This episode is made possible by PwC. Bottom line, what you're doing today isn't going to get you where you need to go tomorrow. It's time to see ahead and get ahead. Find ways to grow and new ways to make money. Reinvent your business model and meet the future with PwC. Find out more at pwc.com.
All right, where's the flyer?
Something that we need you to see.
Since Lindsay found her other chumps through social media, we figured she might have done the same with Munoz.
So I went online and I set up I Heart Alex Munoz for Mayor page. He messaged me back within half an hour.
When you talked about the pension system, I got so excited. You set up a honey trap?
Mm-hmm.
Scroll down.
Okay. So I asked him, are you sure you can handle it? He responded, yes, but not here.
He wanted to meet?
Not exactly. He asked her to switch to a less public site.
Okay. PleasureWithoutConscience.com.
A cheating site? Alex has an account?
Well, no, not by name, but his alter ego does.
Enrique Trouble?
I think that's his porno name.
Come on, this can't be real.
That's a nice Abby.
Moving on. Okay, he asked for a picture first, so I sent him this selfie. Thank you.
Any response?
Not yet.
This could all be a hoax.
Yeah, but that's why I went ahead and asked him for a photo, okay? You've seen me, let me see you.
Don't hold your breath. He's at a fundraiser with his wife and daughters right now, 10 days away from the election. He can't waste time.
Guys like this, they make the time.
You've got to reply.
You said he was at an event. Doesn't that look like a tuxedo shirt?
There's no face. I mean, it could be anyone.
Okay, well, wait, how about this? Is that all you got? Oh, good Lord.
Oh, okay. That's the full Munoz right there.
Oh, no.
And this guy wants to be the next mayor of New York.
In New York City, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. These are their stories.
Hey everybody, welcome to Munch My Benson. My name's Adam. I am in Galveston, Texas, which is suddenly nice and chilly. We had a big cold front rolling through. I'm joined on the line by Josh Dugan, who is for a very limited time still in Los Angeles, California. How is it out there, Josh?
Yeah, the countdown's down to 12 days remaining.
Nice.
Before we move, so that's weird. We went and got COVID tests on Monday. This was the Monday right after Thanksgiving. And to say that the wait times were long would be an understatement.
Really?
It was drive-through a Dodger Stadium.
Oh, God.
The entrance to testing was on the west side of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were entering from like the middle of Echo Park, that's where it was. And that's where we were like going with our nav app. And then we had to circle all around the stadium past the weird police building that's on the south side of Dodger Stadium. We had to keep driving all the way past where the exits from the 110 were feeding off into Dodger Stadium. We had to exit all the way back to basically where traffic would have been coming from way northeast. So we had to circle all the way around and go to the northeast side of Dodger Stadium, way northeast.
You're like on Mulholland Drive, waiting in the traffic jam?
Sure fucking felt like it. I was supposed to have an appointment at 12:30, and we were there at like 12:15, and we got out of there at about 2:30.
Damn. Well, I mean, at least it moved kind of fast, I guess.
Yeah, it only took 2 hours and 15 minutes, but...
When I did mine, I mean, it was with an appointment, and I waited about 15 minutes, so...
Oh, no, we had appointments.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, this is with appointments. Yeah, the appointment times are... you only have X amount that can be done. Once you're in past the stadium gates, and they're routing you through, like, coned driving sections in the parking lot, it was 6 rows of cars.
I think they need to do something about the traffic going to Dodger Stadium, Josh. I've heard that's a thing.
Oh, I disagree. Actually, if you're not having to park at Dodger Stadium, it's really not that bad because you can get... Let's say you're just going on a Sunday afternoon and there's not a Dodgers game, but you're going up to the stadium. We could be there in 15, 20 minutes. And on a game day, honestly, if I'm just taking like a lift...
Yeah, that's how you do it, right?
It takes me 30 minutes.
That's nice.
It's really not bad. So it's just a matter of whether or not you live close enough to do a ride share.
Since we're getting ready for our move, we've been watching some of the films that are in our collection that we probably won't be taking with us, and especially ones that are New York centered. So we watched American Psycho, which I hadn't seen in a minute, which is such a great movie. It was really fun to watch that.
Isn't that actually shot in Toronto, doubling as New York?
No, it can't be, because there's definitely exteriors that have to be in Tribeca. But I guess it's possible that they're not. They could be in Toronto, but they look exactly like Tribeca would have looked in the late 80s.
Well, isn't that just what Toronto is?
I guess, yeah. Let's look that up.
Toronto is just Tribeca in the late 80s. I'm guessing at least some of it was shot in Canada.
Locations. No, they filmed it in New York. They definitely filmed it in New York.
The whole thing?
Film locations. No, it was only featured in a sprinkling of establishing shots. The movie was shot almost entirely in Toronto, except for...
Okay, see, that's what I figured.
Except for a few shots.
Right.
But no, I mean, it's such a good movie, and it's such a good New York movie. I'd forgotten how much it's really about the city in the 80s as much as it is about the dickheads that are still running the world that we live in.
It's such a lighthearted romp.
It is, though. It is kind of a lighthearted romp.
It is actually, once you've seen it the first time, and the sort of, like, shock value is gone, it is kind of fun.
He mostly kills people that are, bad in some way, I guess. I don't know. I guess the working girl isn't...
all the women.
Yeah, they're not so bad. Not the homeless guy. Mostly I'm just thinking of Jared Leto. That one I don't feel bad about.
Nor should you. This is at least the second time we've shat on Jared Leto.
I mean, he didn't kill Chloe Sevigny,
That's true.
Should we get to it? We have a fun rip from the headlines episode of SVU to talk about this time.
It's really ripped from the headlines.
And what's funny about it is that it continued to be ripped from the headlines when it was in syndication, because there kept being headlines that this...
yeah, that's the insane part. It's so crazy that this episode actually portends Anthony Weiner's future.
Yeah.
So this week we're covering season 15, episode 6, October surprise. We've got a very special Barbasode. I'll kick the recap off. We open on a New York local newscast where Lester Holt, who appears to have gotten a serious demotion, throws to a field package of New York State Senator and mayoral frontrunner Alejandro Munoz shouting his super vague, pseudo-progressive stump speech on the campaign trail. Broadway's Aaron Burr argues that this potential first Hispanic mayor of New York City will be a champion for the poor, and his wife introduces him as a champion of the barrio at a ribbon-cutting ceremony, where Munoz gives his right hand, Eddie Garcia, the go-ahead to take care of a personal situation. Jump cut to the police arriving at an apartment with bloodied Eddie and a distressed young blonde named Lindsay fighting over a pair of scissors, followed by a transparent false accusation of rape. Lindsay says Eddie and she just broke up, but that he wasn't letting her break it off with him. Then Munoz shows up at Barbara's office, and it turns out Alex, Raphael, and Eddie were buds from the barrio. As Finn and Rollins interrogate Eddie and Benson and Amaro question Lindsay at the hospital, it quickly becomes evident that Eddie's and Lindsay's stories do not match up at all. Barba and Liv have lunch, where Barba gives her the lowdown on Eddie and Alex and asks her to give Eddie the benefit of the doubt if there's any to be given. When they interview Lindsay a second time, her story about Eddie checks out even less than it did before, and it's instantly obvious that Eddie and Lindsay are not the two who are getting their screw on. Then, Lindsay asks if she can just talk to Amaro because she can clearly get men to do what she wants, and then suggests that she no longer wants to press charges, that she and Eddie just got heated. Ever the paranoiac, Amaro asks Lindsay if someone got to her. As the unit digs into Lindsay's background, her past as a predatory sexual extortionist with married men in positions of power is quickly revealed. Amaro quickly surmises that Eddie isn't the target, Alex Munoz was. Barba tells Amaro he's barking up the wrong tree with Alex, but tells him to investigate as he normally would. Then they find out that Lindsay has up and vacated her apartment. Then Finn and Amaro head to a Munoz campaign event, where they pull him aside and press him about how he matches Lindsay's pattern a whole fucking lot better than a down-on-his-luck corrections officer. He smugly brushes it all off, and then Amaro sees her Facebook post complete with her description of her new job with a labor party in Israel. They go to Munoz's campaign manager's office, where Hank Abraham tells them very freely, while asking to keep it quiet, that he shipped Lindsay and his unnamed aide, with whom he claims she was having the affair, off to Israel together. Amaro and Liv give Barba the rundown of where the case stands. Amaro accuses Barba of being in the bag for Munoz, who Nick believes is orchestrating the cover-up. Finn and Rollins make a run at Eddie, saying that he can be brought up on witness tampering charges. Munoz's wife visits Barba at his office to use her feminine wiles and her history with Barba to try to suss out where her husband stands. Then the unit calls in Barba to the station. Rollins shows Barba how they've catfished Munoz with a fake fan site that led to a private exchange of communiques on a cheating site where some tawdry cleavage pics that Rollins took of herself yields an unflattering open tuxedo shirt photo followed by a shot of his underwear and then the full Munoz. Barba takes the proof of Munoz's misdeeds to him at a neighborhood diner where Munoz doubles down and denies everything, claiming Wall Street is setting him up. Barba lets the unit know that he talked with his old friend. Amaro goes off half-cocked about how Barba's fucking up the case because he feels guilty for leaving the barrio to pretend he was a honky at Harvard while Alex stayed to be a champion for the people. Certain he's right about Munoz paying to cover this shit up, Amaro continues to press for the unit to investigate. Then, Deus Ex Machina, Rollins, lets everyone know that one of the other 10 girls Munoz has suddenly been discovered to be conversing with has a cush job on the New York Gaming Commission, and Finn proffers that he's seen this girl's face and a whole lot more in $1 Million a Night Baby. Alex was paying our fetching porn star $500 a month via Eddie, and when Barba has a heart-to-heart with Eddie, he tells him that prison's going to be too rough on him as an ex-CO and tries to get him to save himself because Alex is only looking out for number one. Granted queen for a day status, if he tells the squad what he knows, Eddie tells them all about his comings and goings as Munoz's bagman, but there was one other person who Alex didn't send him to take care of. Eddie thought Jody was a school teacher, but when Amaro and Finn chase her down, it turns out she's a 15-year-old in Yonkers from whom Alex solicited nude photos. Alex accuses Barba of using Eddie to swift-boat him, and then tries to manipulate Barba, playing the same notes that Amaro warned him Alex would play. The press descends upon Munoz, who categorically denies that of which he's clearly guilty. Barba, Liv, and Amaro watch from bar stools, and Barba tells Liv that his mother always told him to ride Alex's coattails, that Munoz was destined for greatness. They watch as Munoz is arraigned and bail is set at $10K, and we get a "Why the fuck didn't this end at the bar if you were going to blue ball me like this, Dick Wolf?"
I like it. I had a lot of fun watching this episode, Josh.
It's a really great Finn episode.
It was a good Rollins episode, which is something we don't often get.
That's also true. So I suppose we probably need to get to the rip to the headline stuff first because that's
I think we should start there. Yeah, obviously Anthony Weiner, everybody's favorite former congressman / probably, I don't know, I would give him top 5 status for making the world as, well, at least making the United States as dumb a country as it is in 2020.
Yeah, he really, really helped foster that along.
I would say he got a big assist from everybody around him because everybody kept giving this guy breaks. If you don't remember Anthony Weiner, he was Jon Stewart's college roommate.
He was Jon Stewart's college roommate?
Yeah, he was.
I did not know that.
Yeah, no, it was like there was like a falling out, obviously, when the first allegations came, and Jon Stewart made some sort of, like polemic about, he needs help, etc. And he never got the help.
Yeah, I would posit that maybe he was right because old Tony ended up in the clink.
He did.
So let's give a quick breakdown because we obviously know who Anthony Weiner is, but people may not, especially if they're listening from another country or something.
And they may not remember all the twists and turns, even if they remember the name.
And we are an international podcast.
Yeah, we are. Shout out to all our overseas listeners.
Yeah. After serving as congressional aide to Chuck Schumer out of college, where apparently he was roommates with Jon Stewart, Anthony Weiner was elected to the New York City Council in 1991, becoming the youngest councilman in the city's history at the age of 27. When Schumer ran for the New York Senate seat that was open in 1998, Weiner ran to be his successor and was elected to be the U.S. Congressman from the 9th District of New York. He served in that capacity from 1999 until 2011, and while he was in Congress, he was actually one of the most progressive people in Congress, strongly advocating for Medicare for All back in 2009 when the debate over the ACA was raging along. He was also, staunchly pro-choice. He also had the highest turnover amongst his staff on the Hill and was regarded as a screamer who threw furniture. He was kind of a monster to work for. A regular old Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah.
After being elected to the U.S. House of Representatives for a 7th time, Weiner was embroiled in a sexting scandal that broke after he sent a link to a sexually explicit picture of himself to a woman who was following him on Twitter. 3 weeks of unabated scandal followed as he first vehemently denied any wrongdoing and insisted he'd been hacked, only to eventually cave and admit to sending explicit texts and photos to 6 women over the previous 3 years, all while being married to Huma Abedin. He resigned from Congress in June of 2011, but by 2013, Weiner was back in the spotlight again, running for mayor of New York, and once again, a sexting scandal derailed his political aspirations. He dropped out of the race when it was revealed that he'd been sexting a 22-year-old under the pseudonym Carlos Danger.
So good.
That was when John Oliver was filling in for Jon Stewart as the temporary host of The Daily Show, and they would just needle drop.
Putting Hillary Clinton's chances of winning the presidency in serious danger. Carlos Danger. Damn it, Weiner! I'm not having fun! You're ruining my dance! Dang it!
Was that when Stewart was making his movie about Iran?
Yeah, Rosewater.
Yeah.
So, this was just over a year after he left Congress because of a sexting scandal. Clearly, lesson not learned. Then, in 2016, he was rocked by yet another sexting scandal, with the first revelation being that he sent a woman a picture of himself lying in bed with his young son. This is funny right now because the image I have that I'm looking at is Adam with his young son strapped to his chest. So now I'm forced to think about Adam doing that to some rando.
There are no wieners on screen, though.
No dongs. No dongs are being hung. So the third time was the charm for the cessation of his marriage to longtime Hillary Clinton staffer Huma Abedin, as she finally kicked his dumb ass to the curb. The insane part is that the bit in this episode of SVU related to the mayoral candidate sexting with a 15-year-old portended the future, because a few weeks later it came out that Weiner had been sexting with a 15-year-old North Carolinian. Weiner's electronic devices were seized in the investigation following this, because that's possession of child pornography.
Mm-hmm.
And a laptop containing emails that pertain to the Hillary Clinton email controversy was seized, which led to James Comey reopening the investigation 11 days before the election in 2016. So Anthony Weiner's dumb dick gave Hillary an October surprise that may well have cost her the 2016 presidential election.
I mean, the election was essentially decided by like 30,000 votes in Wisconsin.
It was a razor-thin margin in like three
states. In Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It was a total of like 200,000 votes.
That this probably did not help because Comey reopened an investigation that yielded nothing.
To be fair, Weiner had been a problem since like the middle of August for the Clinton campaign because of this stuff coming out. And yet still, I hate to be cruel, but you can't have people on your staff that have baggage like that. You can't have your principal advisors have baggage like that because it's going to come back and bite you in the ass. Unless you're Donald Trump when you don't care. You know, and you say, I don't give a fuck. Who cares?
Well, and he just shit cans all of them, so it doesn't fucking matter.
Exactly.
He runs through them because he knows they're all just fucking craven sycophants who will do whatever they can to, and not even sycophants, because they're more cynical than that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're just
grifters.
doing it to advance themselves.
Yeah, they're shameless grifters. They're all looking to, to like land a job on Fox. You know, that's all they want.
Absolutely. We're recording this while Biden's fucking cabinet nominees, or potential cabinet nominees and administration key people are being announced, and it's a fucking nonstop list of, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, basically.
Fucking Rahm Emanuel? Are you fucking shitting me?
Unfucking believable. A guy ran fucking black sites in Chicago and covered up the murder of a child.
Like no one talks about the black sites. Chicago PD was fucking disappearing people for 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours at a time.
Google Homan Square.
Jesus fucking Christ. Like no one talks about this. Laquan McDonald is also shameful.
Yeah.
Covering up the murder. He was shot, 16 fucking times?
On video.
He was instrumental in the Chicago Police Department covering up that murder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not to mention all of the other fucking disastrous things he did as Chicago mayor. I mean, Rahm Emanuel's like a renowned piece of shit.
So, first-class scumbag. But Emanuel probably single-handedly fucked over the promise that Obama had in 2008.
Oh, for
Coming in with a massive electoral lead, with big leads in both houses of Congress, and fucking Rahm Emanuel ran them to the center and lost all the momentum.
I mean, every time Obama's opened his mouth in the last year, he's
fucking,
also betrayed any of the promise that he had. But there was at least hope then.
Yeah, in 2008 it was different. Now, I mean, he's been windsurfing with fucking
Richard Branson.
With Richard Branson for the last 6 years. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Back to the episode, though.
The other rip from the headline bit that we probably need to talk about is Swift Boat.
They do mention Swift boating.
If you weren't paying attention or aren't old enough to really know what that means, that is referring to the since discredited smear campaign in 2004 that was launched against John Kerry, where a 527 organization, Swift Boat Veterans for Truth, a group of Vietnam vets who simply also served on Swift boats. They didn't serve with him. They were just also vets who served on Swift boats. Ran an extensive disinformation campaign spuriously questioning John Kerry's war record, a campaign that was later discredited and actually yielded a sizable FEC fine, Federal Election Commission, for attacking a candidate rather than focusing on political issues, as a tax-exempt 527 organization is legally required to do.
Of course, the damage was already done.
Oh, yeah.
Bush won a second term and the world burns.
I mean, I don't know that Swift Boat derailed Kerry's campaign.
I mean, Kerry's campaign wasn't like Hillary Clinton's campaign. Yes. Kerry's campaign was deeply flawed from the top on down. But also, like Clinton's campaign, it was extremely close and extremely close at the end.
Right.
And so little things like that could have made a difference.
I mean, the Swift Boat shit happened earlier. It wasn't an October surprise.
It was right around the conventions.
Yeah, it was in the summer that all...
So that was August, September. But still, it had an impact. Yeah. Who knows? You can't say that it was the only thing. But fuck, man. Anthony
Remember
fucking
John
Weiner.
Edwards?
Yeah, right? The media was super horny for John Edwards, which is ironic because he was...
He was super horny for people who were not his cancer-ridden wife.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the Anthony Weiner, the initial photo that broke about him. The one, it's somewhat famous. He's wearing gray boxer briefs, I guess. I think if I recall correctly.
Which is also alluded to in this episode.
But the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette described it as, quote, an erection barely covered by a man's underwear.
Yeah, no, that's an apt description. I kind of have a lot of notes on the guest stars,
Yeah, a lot of guest stars in this. A lot to talk about. We should start there. I kind of have a big New York segment for this one that I did some research on.
Oh, yeah, there's a ton of New York shit, too.
But you start with the guest.
We'll start with Vincent Loresca, who is playing state senator and a mayoral hopeful Alejandro Alex Munoz.
Yeah.
He was main cast in the J-Lo Ray Liotta cop series Shades of Blue, where J-Lo has to turn FBI informant on the dirty cops with whom she's been running. Right before this episode, he was Jangles on the USA Federal Undercover Bunkmates in Malibu joint Graceland, where he almost kills Daniel Sunjata's character.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. Daniel Sunjata is like the co-lead of the show. He was also Radames on Juice. He had a 4-episode run on Weeds, and had bit parts in Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I fucking love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Then we've got Kirk Acevedo.
Eddie.
Yeah, he's playing Eddie. He was main cast in Oz, playing Miguel Alvarez in 46 episodes of the series.
Yeah. Main cast in Band of Brothers.
Yeah, he was DA investigator Hector Salazar in 13 episodes of Law & Order Trial by Jury.
Yeah.
And appeared as Hector Salazar also in SVU, while Trial by Jury was a show.
Oh, weird.
He showed up again in 2017 in 2 more episodes of SVU, playing Detective Ray Lopez. He was Charlie Francis in 36 episodes of Fringe. He was main cast in the 12 Monkeys series. He was Joseph Toy in Band of Brothers. He was Private Tella in The Thin Red Line and a Sentry in The New World. And The New World, when this drops, will be available to stream. And I believe The Thin Red Line will also, but they'll both be available to stream on Criterion Channel.
Oh, nice.
Then moving on, we've got Karen Olivo, who is playing Yelena Munoz. She originated the role of Vanessa in The Heights in 2008. That is the first Lin-Manuel Miranda, big sort of Tony play on Broadway. Then
fucking
we've got,
hell.
That's also, that'll be coming out in 2021. The movie adaptation will be. Then she won a Tony for playing Anita in West Side Story in 2009. She was nominated for a Tony in 2020 for playing Satine in Moulin Rouge. This is her second appearance on SVU in her second role. She also appeared one time apiece on the original series and Criminal Intent. She was main cast playing Cassie Reynolds on Harry's Law. And she had a recurring role as Giada Cabrini for 3 episodes on The Good Wife. She also oddly relocated to Madison, where she teaches at the University of Wisconsin and then, drops into New York when a role sort of calls for it.
I mean, it's a good school, so I imagine it has a theater department that's well regarded.
It does.
Yeah.
Then we've got Leslie Odom Jr., who's playing Reverend Curtis Scott. This is his second of 7 appearances on SVU as Reverend Scott. 3 years after this, he won a Tony and a Grammy for his performance as Aaron Burr in Hamilton.
Fuck Alexander Hamilton.
Well, he's Aaron Burr, so you should be down with him, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I don't want to hear anybody singing about it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, they're rapping, so it's different, right?
I guess.
He's also got the Sia movie, Music, and the Sopranos prequel, The Many Saints of Newark, coming out next year. Or I suppose this will probably drop in 2021, so this year. Then we've got Josh Pais. I think so.
He's been in everything.
Yes. So he's playing Hank Abraham. This is his first appearance as Hank Abraham on SVU. He'll show up 6 more times as this character, who also happens to be Pippa Cox's husband. He exits this show in very public shame.
Oh, nice.
Which we'll get to later. Shame that also brings down Pippa Cox's career. We've also already seen him as the shithead defense attorney, Robert Sorensen, in Remorse from Season 1, Episode 20, which we covered way back in Munch My Benson, Episode 10. Staten Island Has Its Own Entire Language, which featured Jennifer Esposito and Christopher Evan Welch. He was Assistant M.E. Borak in TOS in the original series, and he appeared in 2 different episodes of CI, but he's in like a dozen episodes of the original series as this Assistant M.E. He also has a slew of other credits, including recurring roles as Stu Feldman and Ray Donovan, Barry and Mrs. Fletcher, and most importantly, he was Raphael in the live-action 1990 version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I would say most importantly, he was Quark's nemesis in Deep Space Nine.
But that's like
Ferengi.
2 episodes. That's 2
Gyla.
episodes.
So Josh Pais was also in the film I'm Not Rappaport with Vincent Laresca and Ron Rifkin, who we just covered.
Oh, that's funny.
In the massive 3-parter.
Yeah.
Now, I'm Not Rappaport. I remembered it vaguely, but it's a literal old men sitting on a bench movie. It stars Walter Matthau and Ossie Davis, and it sadly does not have Michael Rappaport in it.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah.
Why would it?
Yeah.
Next, we've got Annalee Ashford, who's playing Lindsay.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is airing right as her star is on the rise. She's just started her Broadway run in Kinky Boots a few months earlier in April, this airing in October of 2013. Then Masters of Sex, which she was a main cast member in, had just premiered 3 weeks before this episode aired. A year later, she'd win a Best Featured Actress, which is like the Supporting Actress Award. She won the Best Featured Actress Tony for playing Essie Carmichael in the 2014 revival of You Can't Take It With You. Some viewers may know that story as having been also the 1938 Best Picture winning Frank Capra film starring Jimmy Stewart, Jean Arthur, and Lionel Barrymore, and Academy Award nominee Spring Byington for that part. I'll note that I've seen 6 of the 10 nominees for Best Picture in 1938, and it's firmly in the bottom half of those nominees for me. It should easily have lost to Jean Renoir's masterpiece, Grand Illusion.
Yeah, of course. But most things should.
Yes, it has no business beating that.
No.
It's criminal, really.
I mean, that's insane. I mean,
it was also not as good as Jezebel, and I'd say Pygmalion's better too.
But seriously, Grand Illusion was nominated. I don't follow the Oscars because it's been so poisoned for me by so many things. But the fact that fucking Grand Illusion didn't win, it's criminal. It's criminal.
The movie's so fucking good.
Yes.
Anyway, and then Ashford, back to her. She is currently starring in Be Positive opposite Thomas Middleditch on CBS, and she'll be playing Paula Jones in Impeachment, American Crime Story in 2021.
I thought she was a lot of fun in this one.
She had a juicy role.
Yeah.
So we've also got Jason Serboni, who is playing defense attorney Lorenzo DeSapio. This is his second appearance on SVU and Munch My Benson.
Yeah, Jackie June.
Yeah. He was Kragan's defense attorney in Lost Reputation, which we covered back in the massive 2-parter, The Brotherhood of Big Bald Bosses.
In the intervening couple of years, he's definitely grown into his role as a defense attorney because he seemed a lot more professional in this one than in that one.
He looks less like a kid in a suit.
Yes. Exactly.
But yeah, as Adam said, he's also Jackie Aprile Jr. in The Sopranos. Lastly, we've got, for me at least, I don't know if you have others to add, we've got Grace Van Patten.
Yeah, that's my last one.
Jodie Lanier. She was Eliza in the Meyerowitz stories. She was Balloon Girl in Under the Silver Lake. She was Ali Pontecorvo in The Sopranos. I have no idea what that means, but she was like 10.
Yeah, she was in 2 episodes.
Yeah, she's also esteemed TV director and former White Shadow star Tim Van Patten's daughter.
And she was 16 when they shot this episode.
Yes, I have a note of that later.
Just want to throw that out there.
Notes. Yes, she was 16. I checked the birth date.
Yeah.
I felt like this is just another instance in which the show is getting a little gross. But we'll get there when we get there, I guess. Do you want to hit the New York notes first, or do you want to do that before we rate?
Oh, let's do it now. They make a big point of talking about the barrio in this film. And in this case, we have Cubans.
Yep.
Because they're all supposed to be Cuban.
Yep.
I don't know. I have a lot of interactions with Cuban Americans. I say I have more Cuban family members than non-Cuban family members at this point. There are some little notes in here that rang really true to me, like them talking about Bustelo. That was something that Cubans would do. Cuban Americans love their fucking brands, and Bustelo is definitely one of their brands. I'm surprised they didn't bring up Goya, but they probably didn't, have the rights to it. But New York has been much more important for Cuba than Cuba has been for New York. There is no Cuban neighborhood in New York. There are Cuban restaurants. There are obviously Cubans that live there. It's, one of the most diverse cities in the world. However, there's no Cuban neighborhood. There's a Cuban neighborhood across the river in Union Park, I think, New Jersey. But even then, it's not particularly big. New York is known for its huge Puerto Rican and Dominican and now Mexican neighborhoods for Latin Americans. But, there are occasional Cubans, but there's definitely not like a Cuban barrio there. Cubans in New York would be more or less isolated isolated in their homes, and their community would be around church and around the restaurants that they all go to, just the same way that my family members in Houston are. They go to the restaurants. My wife's grandmother will see her friends when they go to the restaurant, of course, not in 2020, but before this. And that's how they get along with each other. It's not like the kids growing up next to each other in the old neighborhood, like it would be if they had been Puerto Rican. Also going with this, since Alex Munoz is definitely supposed to be like a Democratic machine kind of candidate, the kind of guy that would run in New York. Not to say that a Cuban guy couldn't win an election in New York City, but in New York City in 2015, I believe, you'd be running somebody that had like a built-in buy-in for different groups. And I don't think you'd run some random Cuban guy when there's like 70,000 Cubans in the entire state. I mean, it's not a sizable population.
Yeah, it's not like if they were running a Dominican or a Puerto Rican where...
Yeah, exactly.
Also, in the Latino community, Cubans don't necessarily ideologically align themselves with other Latino groups.
Especially not Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. Because, I mean, especially in the New York City area, Puerto Ricans are, a huge population. There's like 3.5 million Puerto Ricans in the New York area. They're definitely considered more of a not progressive, obviously not.
Yeah, they're still Catholic.
Fully, because they're still Catholic, but definitely a lot more progressive politics than Cuban Americans are generally considered to be pretty right-wing, especially in Miami, but...
Yeah.
Especially when they're allegedly assassinating a president, things like that. Last thing I would note about New York, though, is that one thing I found kind of interesting is every single one of the, it's kind of a tie into the IMDb page stuff. Every single one of the guest appearances was a New Yorker. They all were born in New York and they all came from there. The only one that wasn't born in New York was Josh Pais. He was born in Princeton, but he grew up in New York. His father, in fact, was a theoretical physicist who was friends with Einstein, who worked at the...
That's weird.
Which I thought was interesting. But I think that's about my only... I looked up all the locations. There was nothing interesting in the locations. They were all pretty straightforward. It did kind of take a tour around New York, though, going to Albany and to Yonkers.
So I say we dive into the episode notes.
One thing, though, before we get to the episode notes, I would say that I don't think SVU would investigate this crime. I don't think they would have been called in the initial crime, and I don't think they would have been...
She alleged rape.
Here, I'm going to give you some crime stats, Josh, because I knew you were going to say that. And I looked up New York City's domestic violence report for August 2020. I picked a month at random. In the month of August... there were 16,303 domestic violence radio runs. 715 of them were felony assault complaints, and 58 of them were rape complaints. Now, this one, the rape was pretty much recanted almost immediately.
Yeah.
And so I don't believe that you'd have one of the police department's elite units, a unit that only has... I guess 4.5 people in it at this point because Munch is gone. Cragen is there in the credits, right? But he's not actually...
He's not in this episode.
He's not in this episode. So you got 4 people and they're really telling me they're investigating all 58 of those rape complaints over the course of 1 month?
Well, and Cragen's about to leave. Like, I believe this is like within 10 episodes.
Yeah, this is his last season. I know that.
Yeah. I think they start by investigating it and then there is a window.
Yeah.
It's not like one of those random ass episodes where there's nothing linking this case to SVU.
That's true.
There was at least the entree into the SVU world, which then, is quickly discarded.
But by the time they're driving to Albany, it's definitely not their case anymore.
Yeah, that's a federal case at that point. But eventually, when they get back around to the 15-year-old and the sexting...
But that's in Yonkers.
Yeah, but that's still their case.
Well, I guess he possessed it in New York City. Yeah, so that's true.
He solicited it from New York also.
Yeah, that's true.
Getting to the episode...
How much do you think they paid Lester Holt for that under 5 performance?
Oh, Jesus Christ. It's a local news channel.
Yeah, I know.
It's Channel 8.
It's like a Gillette, Wyoming local news channel too.
Oh,
yeah. The graphics were not up to par. It was not. It was like...
No, and that's not the only time that the graphics department sort of lets us down, but we'll get to that later. All right, so jumping right into the beginning of the episode, I was not impressed by his stump speech at all.
No.
I know they're just trying to frame him in the most sympathetic way possible to start things off, since 99.5% of politicians are garbage people, but he just parrots empty pap.
The time has come to fix our broken schools. The time has come to provide affordable housing for the hard-working people of the city. The time has come!
I mean, that's basically if you took all the substance out of Bernie's platform and ran it through an Obama 2008 speech generator.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they were going for.
Clearly.
I think with this character. So I knew the title was October Surprise, and I knew that it was an Anthony Weiner related episode. So I knew the October Surprise was going to be a Politico's Wang.
Right.
I have to say, when I saw that it was a brown guy on stage, I was like, motherfucker, they're doing this. They're really going to do this to this guy. Of course, it becomes an important part of the story because it's a big Barba character development.
Yeah, so it's slightly less objectionable.
Yes.
But it's still objectionable. When the cops arrive at Lindsay's apartment, he says he's on the job.
Yeah.
That he's DOC. Since when are apartments in Kips Bay under the purview of the Department of Corrections?
Exactly.
I know the answer to that question is that he's saying he's a Leo, so the cops don't fucking shoot him.
Yes.
But that's a shit-ass excuse if you are trying to get out of the situation without an arrest taking place.
Is it worse of an excuse, though, than when a different law enforcement officer was claiming on-the-job status when he was enacting a violent rape fantasy in a public stairwell, which we saw in, I believe that was the Glasgow Men's Wrath?
That was, oh, fucking hell. That's so fucking great.
I'm not going to read the title. I will read our title. Hold on. Let me read our title for that one. It's the longest title. I'm sorry. I believe it is... wherein SVU prophesizes the future of Tom Hanks' filmography. Enough of that.
Okay, so they waste zero time establishing that Eddie's a devout, all caps devout Catholic. Champion of the rhythm method, who only fucked up once while married, also doesn't believe in abortion. My next note is Los Tres Muscateros de Jerome Avenue. That puts them all growing up in the Bronx. Yankee Stadium 3 is bordered to the west at the north end of the lot by Jerome Avenue.
Nice.
And then there's an IRT line that runs along Jerome Avenue, mostly above ground.
The Bronx is classically a very large Puerto Rican neighborhood, or at least large parts of it are. That part of the Bronx is.
Right. And it would stand to reason that maybe those kids from PS 109 were picking on Barba and his buddies because they were Cuban and not Puerto Rican.
Yeah, I would buy that.
So Lindsay is such a transparent, shitty manipulator in the scene with Amaro that it's really hard to see how a rising Pole like Alex Munoz is supposed to have fallen in with her.
He seems to fall pretty easily for people, which we will get to in a second. But I love when Olivia and Amaro walk into her apartment, and it's like, it's trash. I mean, it looks like a dirty girl's apartment. There's clothes everywhere.
Not just a dirty girl. Maybe the dirtiest girl.
yeah. But
like, the only apartment I can remember being worse than this is the apartment in Prodigy, and she's a drunk.
Yeah.
Even the crackhead mother apartment in Unstable
that wasn't that dirty. That one wasn't that dirty. It just there was a crack pipe and some cigarette butts and some chips on a table. That was how dirty it was.
But girls gotta eat.
That's what I'm saying. Anyways, Amaro says,
Now, I don't know if the officers told you last night, but you don't need to preserve the crime scene.
It always kind of looks like this.
Oh, well, I didn't mean anything by it.
No worries. You're sweet. He is, right?
Yeah, until you get to know him.
Sure.
Yeah, that was tight. All right, so some of the Munoz campaign events sort of pass the smell test, but that catered dinner in the open where Leslie Odom Jr. is speaking at the dais does not seem like one of them.
No, that one was
going
weird.
back to that.
Yeah,
the people seated seem like they're way too working class to be at a catered function for him as the mayoral frontrunner in a city like New York.
Yeah,
hot on the heels of the Bloomberg mayoral run too. Like, there's a lot of money in this race.
Yeah, that sort of event is like a fundraising thing. You have people in suits.
Yeah, that's a rubber chicken dinner or lunch, but a rubber chicken lunch. Those people would not be there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I think we both wish that this was the case in the real world, that normal, sort of more working class people would be at a function like this, but it's not the case.
I mean, they would be at the other functions, like the ribbon cutting ceremony and the shit on the street. Yeah. Oh, did you notice the really nice cut on action from Munoz's wife? What is it? Yelena Munoz cutting the ribbon to
the scissors and
Lindsay wielding the scissors. It was a nice little directorial choice. I also love that Olivia Benson doesn't know what vaping is.
Yeah. Grover Norquist would be so upset with her.
Hold on. I'm going to kick the dog out of this room.
Okay.
And I'm going to get a beverage real quick. What are you drinking, Josh?
I'm drinking water and 4 fingers of Jameson in a tumbler on the rocks.
Nice.
Which it feels like a broken record, but I had cycled out. I hadn't had a Jameson in a few weeks. We had Bullet. Oh, and we also had this really shitty... I had to walk to the corner store and get whiskey. And the corner store that I went to, because we have like 3 that I could choose from that aren't 7-Eleven that have liquor. The corner store that I'd gone to had a really shitty selection, and the prices are really bad.
I believe that.
And so I went there, and I was like... so there were a couple that I wanted more, but the prices weren't on it, and I didn't want to talk to the guy.
Yeah.
So I got this really shitty rye whiskey... and then had to choke it down for like a week.
I am drinking a Founders All Day IPA. It's session.
That's a session IPA, right?
Yeah, so it's low alcohol content. I get it because it comes in 15 packs, which is
like
nice.
Wolf Pup. The Golden Road Wolf Pup session IPA does too.
Yeah.
I like a nice session IPA.
Yeah, it's good.
It's lighter.
It's a good day beer.
Yeah, definitely. And it's under 5% usually, or right around 5%, so it's not quite as high alcohol content as...
Yeah, it's not like a fucking... There's this one rodeo clown that Carbach makes that's like fucking 10.2% or something absurd like that.
Yeah, any like double IPAs, you're like, okay, well that's 8.6%.
Yeah.
You're just gonna feel shitty. I don't know. I've been having stomach issues drinking IPAs.
Hold on. I gotta take this call.
This is Jim Rockford. At the tone, leave your name and message. I'll get back to you.
Jim, this is Cal from the Leave the Whales Alone Club. Our protest cruise leaves from the pier Saturday at 3 a.m. The whales need you, Jim.
Your mother-in-law and grandmother-in-law are coming over?
Yes, and sister-in-law. The only people that I ever see are getting a beach house in Galveston for the month of December. So
that's fun.
Yeah, exactly. So Max will get to see them a lot, which will be nice.
Cool.
But all the beach houses here are on stilts because of hurricanes, and so I might have to deadlift a 97-year-old woman up a 12-foot set of steps. We'll see.
That's fun.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Just as long as I don't drop her, then...
I'm sure she's small.
Then I'll have problems with the Cuban-American community if I drop her.
Yeah, they'll be coming for you. Okay, so getting back to the episode, we've got Amaro saying...
Eddie, no offense, se un muerto de hambre.
Which, from what I can gather at the Spanish section of wordmeaning.org, it's a pejorative, which makes sense given that Amaro prefaces his saying it with a no offense.
Yeah.
It's apparently a humiliating insult to those who receive it, since it is understood that they're so hungry that they're almost at the point of death and are reduced to being pitiable beggars.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of akin to saying someone's a poor wretch, but with a little more humiliation intended. That's what I can gather.
Direct translation is that's like a death from hunger, basically, is what that means. Or he's dying from hunger.
But yeah, it's obviously like a colloquialism, and so it's not just like a situation where you do a direct translation. But yeah, that's what it would directly translate to. Yes, yeah.
And I gotta say, every time Amaro gets to use Spanish as opposed to his wife to build his character, I think it's great.
Yes. Yeah, there are like 3 or 4 times in this episode where it's like, oh, I guess I have to fucking like explain what this means to the listeners, because most of them probably don't speak Spanish.
I also
not
thought,
that I speak it well, but
I mean, I thought Amaro was a very good investigator in this one.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely barking up the right tree the whole time.
Uh-huh.
Jackie definitely had an issue with him, and I see where her issue has merit, because he's very smug the entire time that he's insinuating that Barba's compromised and all that shit.
Yeah.
He is definitely very smug in his being correct, and it does make what should be a likable turn less likable.
Yeah, I could say he's less likable, but he's cynical for a reason. I mean, this is Barba's oldest friend, and Barba's kind of in the middle of this investigation.
Yeah, but he's also worked with Barba for over a year at this point.
Yeah.
He should sort of like know what his character is. And the elevator scene, Barba sort of lights him up, and justifiably so.
But I feel like that's kind of Amaro's thing, right? And if they kept him on longer, we would have seen more of this, is that he's always a cynic when it comes to people's motivations, especially the people closest to to him, right?
Right.
In Lost Reputation...
Because his dad was an abusive asshole.
Exactly. In Lost Reputation, he's questioning Kragen. Maybe Kragen did do it, and in this one...
But in Lost Reputation, he's doing very awful police
Oh,
work.
sure, he's doing terrible work, except for actually questioning whether Kragen might be compromised or not. Or at least asking that they look into that possibility. In this one, yeah, I can see why he's an asshole, but... You know, Barba should have been like, hey guys, I can't be anywhere fucking near this.
But his boss is telling him he has to be.
I know, but still.
Barba's absolutely between a rock, a hard place, and another fucking rock.
Yeah, and he gets fucked over by it, I think.
He simply cannot win in this episode.
No. So, yeah, Benson doesn't know what vaping is, and asks her to put out the cigarette, which is clearly a vape pen.
Yes, obviously. No, I was trying to think back to 2013 and whether or not vape pens were, like, ubiquitous yet. And I feel like they were.
I feel like it's been a thing for a while. I feel like...
Yeah.
But things change. Of course, we didn't have smartphones.
Right.
Too long ago.
No, I had an iPhone then.
No, then we did. But, 10 years before that, we didn't.
Right.
I think that Lindsay could have been a recurring character. I feel like there's like really missing the opportunity for a weird foot fetish episode with Lindsay as
totally
as like the unsympathetic victim.
Yeah, where she's been a foot jobber for hire.
Well, she's a foot model supposedly.
A foot jobber for hire.
But, I mean, right? So, when I hear foot model, I'm like, you're been in some freaky shit, man. I don't know what you're getting paid for.
Yeah, no, we've all seen the videos.
We know that Finn has seen those videos.
Yeah, Finn definitely has seen the videos. He recognized old what's-her-fuck right away.
He has an encyclopedic knowledge of pornography because she'd only been in one video, supposedly.
Well, that's the one that he had. She said that was the last one she did.
That's true.
So I presume there were more. Otherwise, wow, Finn, good job. He's fucking... God damn it. He's so good in this episode. Yeah. Okay, so Munoz is super smug when he typifies Lindsay as, quote, a person who makes accusations and then disappears.
Yeah.
Obviously, Finn and Amaro both have to know that he's just fucking with him here, right?
You would think they would have dealt with enough scumbags to kind of smell a scumbag, but...
Oh, for sure. Especially, like, a powerful one.
Yeah.
Who thinks they're above the law, and obviously he does.
Yeah.
So, Lindsay is set up with a gig with the Labor Party in Israel?
Yeah, and so they go to talk to Hank Abraham.
Yeah, maybe I'm not following this correctly.
Yeah.
But we're to believe that this campaign manager, who used to be like the public information commissioner or something in the NYPD, we're supposed to believe that this fucking guy...
I believe it.
Who's just running a mayoral campaign and the campaign of the district attorney in New York. Like,
just a mayoral campaign?
Those are big campaigns.
Yeah, it's a huge campaign.
But they're not that huge. Not huge enough that you'd be running international campaigns in Israel and
sure
shit.
You would.
I really don't.
New York is bigger... New York City is bigger than Israel, and you have a lot of similar people.
Even if that were the case, why would you spread yourself thin with garbage like that?
Because your office handles that shit, and so I mean, you have a lot of the same people. I mean, a lot of the money.
This is the bridge too far for me. Is her getting shipped off to a gig in Israel? Like, why would they take her? Also, how would he have the suction?
Did you ever see that documentary? Our Brand is Chaos. I mean, these people are transnational fuck jobs. They go where the They go where the money is, and the money's in politics. And in New York, there's so much money for campaigns all over the world, you know? You can't tell me that, like, there aren't plenty of New Yorkers. I'm not trying to be anti-Semitic, but there's plenty of New Yorkers that have a big interest in Israeli politics.
Oh, including Anthony Weiner, who repeatedly called Palestinians terrorists.
Yes, exactly. All I'm saying is it's a pretty big stretch that he can just randomly get two completely unqualified people jobs.
The one that he shipped was qualified. Her, she's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like some gig in Albany, sure.
I buy that, yeah.
Totally. That would make sense. The candidate would have the suction to make this happen. Some Cuban aspirant politician would not have that kind of suction.
Most likely not. But it's not
him. He was a state senator. It's not like Anthony Weiner was at least a U.S. congressman.
But I would believe that Hank Abraham had done campaigns in Israel. That's not totally surprising to me.
I don't really believe that, but whatever.
He has a photo with Bill Clinton, him in the background.
Who doesn't have a photo with Bill Clinton?
Which is a question I bring up. So do you think that Alejandro Munoz partied at Little St. James?
Oh, sure. surely.
Because
and Hank Abraham's ultimate fate is that he is caught up in a child pornography ring.
So he's clearly been on the Lolita Express.
Yeah, that's why he's got a picture with Bill Clinton.
That's what I'm talking about. So I'm saying that these guys, the international cabal of pedophiles, can clearly get...
So you're saying because Jeffrey Epstein was an arms dealer and he's clearly tight with Epstein and Clinton, this is not information that we've received yet as a viewer.
Yes.
But he is in a child pornography ring, which makes sense that he would be then tight with Jeffrey Epstein.
Ghislaine Maxwell exists in this universe. I think we've established that before. I'm not 100% sure. But she's definitely disappeared some underage chicks that Hank Abraham was partying with. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, probably.
All right, okay. So back to reality.
Yeah. My next note is, so Yelena came to Barba to play the role of political wife who's not afraid to get her hands a little dirty to get information.
Yeah.
But when she leaves, she asks,
just tell me one thing. Is this in any way about us?
I know. I thought this was unnecessary.
This is the dumbest thing because she walks out of the office after that.
Mm-hmm.
She says just one more thing. Is this in any way about us? There's like 10 seconds that pass where maybe she's still in the office, but she's backing out. But she doesn't really press him to answer.
Yes.
This is obviously intended to plant the seed that it's his jealousy informing the investigation, but it seems weird to ask what really doesn't play like a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
If she were to say, just ask yourself, instead of just tell me one thing, it would have played the way it was intended to play, but it's not how it comes across because she's saying, just tell me one thing, and then she doesn't let him respond.
It was weird to me. I gotta say that I feel like if you frame Barba as being an ambitious guy on his way up, and you frame Munoz as being an ambitious guy on his way up, they already have an interesting interpersonal dynamic with being childhood friends.
Right.
And you have a reason why Barba might want to fuck over Munoz to further his career. You don't need to have this personal relationship. I feel like it's overriding. They were like, well, we need to give him a reason. Why not just that Barba's trying to make his career? And the way you make a career is by making big cases.
I think to be fair, Barba isn't that character.
No, I don't think he's doing that, but Munoz could frame it as doing that. Just like...
I mean, Munoz has already basically framed it like that. You know, in the final scene between him and Barba, he says that Yelena said that he's doing this out of jealousy and that you believe that there can only be one Cuban. There's only room for one Cuban at the top, which is...
I mean, okay, but that works, but the thing with, like, Yelena just doesn't make sense to me that much. No, and I think it was unnecessary and, like, kind of gave the episode some of the more dead air that it had.
I don't mind the sort of, like, backstory that it provides, but I just think that line casts the entire scene in a way that's kind of dumb.
Yeah, I thought it was dumb too. He's like a consummate professional. There's no way he's letting his loins get in the way of his job.
So when Rollins is showing the fan page...
Oh, I mean, so many good things. So much good shit with all of these pages.
The first one's insane.
No.
Like that chat box.
Yes.
There's never been a website in the history of the internet that had a chat box that functioned like that.
But before we get there, we need to talk about what might be one of my favorite lines of dialogue in the series SVU. When Rollins is talking about, she's talking about Lindsay. And this is where they're researching Lindsay. This is where they're finding the other people that have restraining orders against Lindsay. Orders of protection. Right. OOPs, they call them.
Yeah.
Her, I guess, therapist had one.
You got something on Lindsay?
So far, 4 men have filed orders of protection against her for harassment and extortion.
Plus 2 more OOPs. One from an ex-mother-in-law and the other's from an ex-shrink who kept getting texts demanding that he come back and murder her vagina. Whatever that means.
I mean, she's a freak.
Whatever that means. Which she makes a look whatever that means at Liv, who Liv genuinely looks like she doesn't know what that means, I would say. And then Finn says, because he needs to translate for us in this episode, it means she a freak.
God damn it.
And that's Finn's first great line in the episode, but
a first of many.
But that's also
the next
Rollins.
like 10 minutes of that episode are just like Finn highlight reel.
Yeah, but Rollins too, with the way she delivers it is really funny because she's like, whatever that means.
Yeah, the murder her vagina line is just gold.
But okay, so we're kind of doing the Rollins stuff. So Rollins, I guess since we don't have Taru Morales anymore, Rollins is our resident techie, right?
Yeah. Which, I mean, I miss Morales.
Yeah.
Almost every episode, there's a Deus Ex Machina scene where she just swoops in with, like, this instantaneous knowledge that she could not have had.
No.
Like, if she'd had it before, the whole unit would have known.
Yes.
And then she just drops 35 seconds of exposition on everybody where she's broken the case wide open, and it doesn't make any sense.
And she does that twice.
This way.
How does she get all these like records from these dating websites?
Oh, god damn it. It's so weird. So going to the fan page that I heart Munoz for
I
mayor,
heart Alex Munoz for mayor. Yeah. Alex Munoz is hot, ... Off the presses. Right underneath a headline that says Munoz surges, which is just the most gross juxtaposition.
So lewd. And that's foul. Munoz surges. So I understand why the chat box is functioning the way it is, because the one message at a time function is a nice delivery system for TV purposes. But it's absolutely not how any fucking chat has ever been rendered in 30 years of chat being a function on the internet.
Well, and it's like, this is the most obvious honey trap I've ever seen. Like, the only thing on the page is, let's chat and private chat. Those are the only two buttons, basically.
Yeah, it's so dumb. I don't know why the graphics department would have designed a page with a chat function that was that way. It doesn't make sense.
I gotta say that fucking Rollins' Avi is ridiculous also.
Also, who knew that Rollins was hard for pensions?
Yeah.
Quote in the chat, when you talked about the pension system, I got so excited. That is the weirdest wonk boner I've ever heard of. It's so fucking weird.
That's a good freeze frame.
Who the fuck is getting wet over pension talk?
Pension system. Ooh.
Oh, pension.
Let's reinvest your retirement funds. Ooh. Now, we get a lot...
Also, how dumb is Munoz if he's falling for someone claiming to get wet at the sound of pension policy?
I mean, to be fair, Anthony Weiner really had no control over this shit, so almost anything I would think would work.
So, the fan site looked like a website that's never existed in the history of the internet.
Yeah.
But...
it gets better,
PleasureWithoutConscience.com looks fucking great. The graphics department is batting, I guess, 333 here? Because they really fucking nailed this site.
So there's a drop-down menu in PleasureWithoutConscience.com that's called Internet. There's File, Edit, Search, Database. Those, I can see those being drop-down menus. What is Internet? What is Internet?
I totally missed that, but that's amazing. Still, the site, other than the weird drop-downs, looks fucking great.
Yeah.
The Enrique Trouble profile. I mean, obviously.
We
may as well just say Carlos Danger, right?
I feel like they could have workshopped that a little bit better. Like Trouble as the last name, they needed to do. They could have come up with something better than that.
Peligroso.
Yeah, that would have been great. You know, like
Wayne Peligroso. Anyway, so I love Finn playing armchair catfisher.
Oh, so good.
His side eye with a full fucking smirk that he shoots Rollins with that cleavage pick is fucking gold.
Yeah.
That whole scene is just fucking brilliant.
It's hysterical.
For any of the earlier, like, sort of half failings or minor notes that don't play right,
the episode gets good here.
This scene is so fucking perfect.
It gets really good.
This is like the most fun that I remember a scene being in a while.
Yeah. Rollins shows a bunch of cleavage, like half the bra. It's kind of a down the shirt kind of angle.
Down the shirt, but like the shirt just pulled over to her. It would be her right?
No, her left, I think. I think her left,
maybe
if I recall.
Screen right,
Yeah. And she says, I sent him this selfie. And then Finn's like wide-eyed staring at her, totally like acting without saying a word. And she responds, thank you.
I feel like that was natural, though.
Yeah, no. So much of Finn's acting was just like, they did not have to do another take. When he was
this is just unfiltered iced tea, I think.
They were like, that means she a freak. Like,
Yeah.
I see just said that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He may have been ad-libbing all of his lines this episode, and it still plays great, so who gives a shit? Holy fuck. He's the MVP of this episode.
Oh, so fun.
I mean, obviously it's a Barbasode, and he's doing the heavy lifting, but fucking A. Finn, just every goddamn line, he is just relishing.
I feel like he's like Derek Fisher 0.4 seconds that Lakers game. Because it's not so much that he's the star. It's clearly like Barba's the star, and Amaro does most of the kind of work with Barba, right? They kind of are playing off each other. And Rollins is maybe, like throwing some assists with the technical job, but Finn is the one hitting the buckets when they count. He's the
for sure.
The Bob
He's Robert Horry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so right after this scene, we get some more Spanish that probably needs translating in the elevator scene between Amaro and Barba.
Yeah.
Amaro says that Barba left the barrio to be a gringuito, which is like a term that Latinos would use.
Little gringo.
Well, but it's sort of like disparagingly. They would use it when talking about white Americans.
Yeah, you're trying to be... Well, he's saying you're trying to blend in with them, is what he's saying.
Right. You went to Harvard and you're going on your ski trips and all that shit. Yeah. You're basically trying to be a fucking honky, is what he's implying.
Which they're Cubans. They are fucking honkies. No offense, but...
yeah. No, they're the colonizers. Yeah. If they got out, they're of that ilk.
Well, not necessarily, but many of them are...
But largely. I don't want to paint with too broad a brush here. Anyway. So Barba calls Amaro compai, which, from what I can tell, is primarily used by Cubans as a term synonymous with, like, buddy or dude.
Yeah.
You wouldn't hear Mexicans. I saw Cuban, and they also use it in Venezuela, apparently.
I mean, that's possible. It's similar.
But it's definitely
Caribbean.
Primarily, I've seen it primarily associated with Cubans.
Now, interestingly enough, since you're bringing this up, both Danny Pino and Raul Esparza are Cubans. And so that's how they would talk. Now, in this episode, Amaro is supposed to be Puerto Rican, right? That's my understanding of the Amaro backstory, is that he's Puerto Rican.
I can't remember 100%.
Let's actually figure that out, because we should know that.
You're figuring that out. I'll also add that then after Barba says compai, he says, no te equivoques conmigo, which roughly translates to, like, don't misunderstand me or don't get me wrong. It probably goes over into the realm of don't underestimate me. That's essentially what he's saying there.
Because I felt like
because no te equivoques conmigo. Equivoques is not like a normal word that most rudimentary Spanish speakers would know. I'd never seen it before, and I had to pass a Spanish equivalency test for college.
Yeah, but you have to understand that, like, when you were taking Spanish, you were taking either Spanish or Mexican Spanish.
Yeah, it was Spanish. It was at Minnesota.
Yeah, so usually, you're learning...
It's mostly white people teaching it.
Castellano. You're not... like, Cuban Spanish is different, and so is Puerto Rican Spanish.
Like, if you talk to, a lot of, like, say Mexicans who go to Cuba, or like Pike, who basically speaks Mexican Spanish.
Yes.
There's
Pike
a lot of Cuban...
Like
there's
Mexico
a lot of
City
weird,
Spanish.
like, Cuban colloquialism.
Absolutely. It's like English and
it's
Jamaican.
A dialect, basically.
Exactly. It's a dialect. Right. Like, if I hear my relatives speaking Spanish, I can detect the Cuban accent. They don't say S's. But if I hear fucking, like...
which is why he would be saying no te equivoque instead of equivoques.
Exactly.
Like, he's dropping the S at the end, which Cubans would do.
Yeah, Puerto Ricans do that, too. They do... I mean, it sounds a little bit different, but they do it, too.
I wonder, is that like a Caribbean Islander thing, maybe?
Yeah. But if you hear, like... if I heard, like, Jose Abreu or... Joan Moncada or something speaking.
Right.
Or Puig. Puig, actually, I've heard speaking a lot.
Yep.
Puig, when you hear Puig speaking, he has the, like, thickest Cuban accent you've ever heard. It sounds
totally.
And what other Spanish speakers will say, it sounds like they have water in their mouth while they're trying to speak. And that's what Puig sounds like when he talks.
Yeah, for sure.
He's a great example of that. But Cuban is definitely a dialect. And not only is it a dialect, but it's almost like they are less polite than Mexicans are. They don't beat around the bush with language. It's quicker. It's to the point. Actually, I've been looking up Amaro's page, and I don't think they make a big deal about where he comes from. I always assumed he was Puerto Rican. But also, in this episode, Barba accuses him of bodega psychology, which I thought was was maybe like because Cubans also look down at everybody else, and I assumed that
you're thinking that might be a classist thing.
Yes, exactly. A sort of quasi-racist classist thing, which, to be fair, is not out of the question. Let's put it that way.
Right. I'm not going to get too far into painting with a broad brush.
No.
When Amaro's pressing for the unit to keep the investigation going, Rollins super conveniently throws in the morsel that she found 10 other girls.
Just been Googling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at this. And one of them just got an executive position at the New York Gaming Commission.
Okay, but before we talk about that girl, we have to talk about each one of these websites that they went to. Well, first off, she says, we got a good tip. And Rollins says, I think we saw more than just the tip.
Yeah, but who's giving them these tips?
I know.
Well, we got a good tip. No one knows you're investigating this, dickheads.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got more than just the tip. That line's fucking gold, too.
Gold. But okay,
there's so much dick pic punnage in this episode.
Oh, yeah. Here are the websites that she goes to. So one is secretscanbefun.com. Another one is covertchats.com, and the final one is allbehindcloseddoors.com. They say he's age 27, which I don't buy for a second.
Wait. What? They're saying that
that Munoz is supposed to be 27 years old.
That's just what he's saying on the site.
I understand. But there's discrepancy.
But he would never pass as 27.
No, not in a million years.
No. Right here, I could see like passing for as young as 38.
So I feel like they made two of these, brought them to the director. Director was like, we need one more. Somebody.
Well, honestly, that's probably something that doesn't even show up in the shot, and that just goes to the showrunner.
Well, okay, yeah, exactly. So whoever's making these decisions called for an extra one. And there's a discrepancy in the height. So two of them had his height being 6'3", which I believe
he is not 6'3". He's not 6'3". No. If you look at scenes, I would guess that he's about 6 foot even, maybe even shorter, because he seems shorter than Pino.
Interesting.
Here, let me look up his height real quick.
Covert Chats had some other data points that weight, which 192, whatever. He's not super fat, but he's also not super thin, so that's fine.
We know he's not super thin because we see that open shirt shot that is not flattering.
No, it's so not flattering.
He's 5'11" per his IMDb.
Okay, interesting. But two of them said 6'3", which, that's kind of a stretch.
As a person who's 6'3", as a giant man, yeah, he's not my height.
Okay. But Covert Chats had another data point, which was size.
Ooh.
And he put his size as huge.
Yeah, if you're not getting exact, I'm not buying it. Now I need to know.
What?
Vincent Loresca, if you're listening...
Yeah. Send Josh a dick pic.
No, I don't need a dick pic with a quarter next to your cock or anything like that. But if you're listening, just send us a DM and just say like 8.5 inches or whatever.
Yeah.
13. I don't want to convert from metric, so don't give me in metric. Yeah, you can email munchmybenson@gmail.com.
Also, rate and review the podcast while you're doing that.
Yeah, do that, Vincent. Hey, we love your work here. And I liked your work as Jangles, so rate and review us, huh?
This is where we get Finn showing his extracurricular interests when he just immediately recognizes the girl from her pornography.
I've seen her.
Yeah.
Different screen, but yeah, I've seen her.
Mm-hmm. So fucking good.
Yeah, it's gold. Okay, so we get that scene where Eddie and Barba are sort of commiserating on the park bench.
Mm-hmm.
I think that scene really worked.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of plot necessarily that's going on, but it definitely helps sort of. In a Barbasode, I think it's sort of the heart of this episode is right there. That's where you sort of see everything from the past really come out, because it's the first time you sort of see Barba with Eddie. And you see that they're the two who, obviously, Barba's, doing better career-wise.
He's successful, but he's
successful, and he had the Harvard education.
But he's sensitive.
You see, this is where they would have all been friends.
Yes,
it's this scene.
Yes,
because you obviously have seen Eddie be loyal to a fault to Alex,
and Munoz is definitely
but Munoz is obviously using
egomaniac of the group.
Yeah,
but yeah, Eddie. No, and that's a really good scene. Kirk Acevedo's a great actor. I thought he was really good.
Oh yeah,
for
sure. It's been a super long time since I watched Band of Brothers.
Mm-hmm. But he's fucking one of the main guys. Yeah,
great in it.
Yeah, he was really good.
Oddly, he's sort of the one in this episode who has the bigger career that most people have seen.
Yeah.
Unless you're a Broadway nerd, he's got he's got sort of meaty roles in big shows like Oz or fucking Band of Brothers.
No, and it's interesting. I think his role is the more interesting role, but it's
absolutely. But it's sort of
a character. Exactly, but it has a lot less screen time than Munoz.
Yeah, he's almost tertiary, but it is the more interesting part.
Yeah, he does say, "Mom looks good," and Barbara says, "She does, Eddie." Which that was like a fun a weird throwaway line. Like, why? I wouldn't call it swift boating. I guess I'm.
No, I actually have that note too.
Yeah.
Really felt like swift boating didn't make sense here at all.
I mean, I guess the idea is that like somebody from the past throwing you under the bus
is defaming you, but the Carrie Swift boaters weren't actually really tied to him at all.
No, they weren't. But in the case of Carrie, it was using what Carrie's perceived strength was, which was actually having served when George W. Bush, was playing hooky from his National Guard
getting DUIs in the Air National Guard.
Yeah, exactly. But using that strength against him, I guess you could say that Barbara using his Cuban neighborhood background against him, it's not the same thing.
But he's saying that you're using Eddie.
Yeah.
You're using Eddie to swift boat me. It doesn't track at all.
No.
My note was, really felt like the swift boating accusation didn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't.
I mean, it's just like randomly calling up a politics term that was...
Right. And I mean, I suppose it's probably gotten misused since then, too, because they were misusing it in 2012 also.
Sure.
So, right after Eddie and Barbara are on the park bench, then we come back from commercial and fucking Eddie is getting his queen for a day treatment and he's telling them all about what he was doing for Alex. And this is when the Jodie Lanier character is introduced into the mix.
Mm-hmm. Also Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
I mean, Rollins just like pulls it out of thin air.
No. Jodie came about because Eddie was like,
that's right. There's one other.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
okay.
so that's not really Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah.
Not nearly as badly as every other.
I took very limited notes over the last third of the episode.
No. There aren't that many to take. I only have 3 left. Once again, they sexualize a minor, this time in the form of Grace Van Patten playing Jodie Lanier.
And an actual minor, not somebody playing a minor.
Yeah, Jodie was 15, Grace was 16. This isn't like when they have our Canadian teen prostitute who's really like in her 20s.
Yeah.
This is Grace was 16 when this was shot.
Yeah,
which meant
was.
The bikini stills the second unit did here were with a minor.
Yeah, the like kind of like high angle.
Yeah, the high angle non-selfies of her in a bikini.
They were definitely telling her to push her chest out, that's for sure.
It's theoretically possible that this was like from one of her social media accounts, I guess, and she'd already had these pictures taken, but I doubt it.
It's possible. It's possible, but I mean...
I highly fucking doubt it. And even if she had, still...
Pretty questionable.
Yeah. So yeah, this is yet another instance in which they're sexualizing minors.
In an episode that's supposed to be about being shocked by people making sexual overtures towards minors, they're the ones doing the sexualizing.
Yeah. My last note is, seriously, why the fuck didn't it just end at the bar?
Yeah.
If we weren't going to get any more resolution, why does it not end there?
The bar was a perfect place for it to end. Have it end
with Barbara talking about his mom. That's the thing that makes sense. That's where it should have ended. It should have been him talking about his mom saying, ride Alex's coattails, and, her never really believing in him. That would be the fucking moment to end on, because that's where, like, the psychological element,
there's an arc.
Weight of the show is there.
But the arc doesn't need to go to a place where he's getting posted bond for $10,000 or whatever.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Who cares? That's pointless. Obviously, he's already established that it's getting handed over to the special prosecutor.
Yeah. And
this was established in the scene outside of the suit and tie gala thing.
But who gives a shit about like what this guy's sentence is going to be? It's not about the sentence.
It's not even a sentence. It was arraignment.
I know.
This was just arraignment. They were at his fucking arraignment hearing, just saying, okay, your bail set at $10,000 5 days before the election. Who gives a fuck?
The fact is that we know that the election is shot, but we know that when they're sitting in the bar. We know that.
Yeah, just end it there. It's so dumb.
So they're watching TV, right? And Munoz is giving a speech. And I liked the signs that protesters, or I don't know if they're protesters or fans, were holding. One is a dude who, the reason I noticed, because when I first was watching, I thought it was Kirk Aceveda, just with slightly more hair, but it wasn't. It was just an extra, but it was a male extra holding a sign that said, "Text me, Alex." which I thought was very funny, given that, like, he's clearly not gay. I mean, there's a lot of things that this guy is, but he's clearly not gay. But it's funny. He's, like, not, like, jumping up and down. He doesn't look very excited. He's just kind of like passively holding a sign that says that. Right behind him, there's a sign that says No Mas Munoz, which I thought was nice. And then finally, there's another sign that says Trouble Me Again, which I thought was because his name was Enrique Trouble. And I thought that was the best use of Trouble in the episode, because I really think Enrique Trouble is one of the
largest missed opportunities in the episode.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Carlos
spent an hour in the writer's room throwing out fucking names.
I'm sorry, but that could have, like, made the episode if you had a better name there. Because Enrique Trouble is A, it doesn't sound good.
Peligroso.
Yeah, something like that, you know? I guess we didn't give enough coverage to how unflattering that open tuxedo pic was. We mentioned it, but we didn't really give too much. And we also didn't give too much coverage to...
You hope for his sake that was just like, here's suit.
I don't think so. I think that was him.
No, I think it was him too.
But then we also, you know, that exchange there, because Liv goes, "Oh, good Lord." And Finn goes, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, the full Munoz is pretty sweet.
Yeah, that was fun.
I wish they would have had it on screen and blurred it out so we would have got a better idea of how big he was. Since he apparently thinks he's
huge. Yeah, just a giant black bar hanging across half the screen.
Again, email the podcast, munchmybenson@gmail.com. Email the podcast, Vincent. All right, so shall we rate and review this?
Rating and reviewing. Yeah, so of course we always rank these episodes. We do it on a 10-point scale of 4 criteria: quality, guest, problematic, and depth and breadth of lives ruined, to give us a composite score to see just where this matches up in the pantheon of SVUs that we have watched. Let's start at the beginning. The quality. I thought it was a good one. I didn't think it was perfect by any means.
No, it definitely had some shortcomings, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of fun, which these aren't always.
No, and it's season 15. I don't go into a season 15 episode expecting great things.
I do think there's a weird thing where we sort of habitually, because Stabler's not around.
Yeah.
It's probably confirmation bias, but there's so much Rollins and Amaro backstory that pollutes these seasons that if we get an episode that doesn't really deal with that, they're actually generally pretty good.
Yeah, the writing is
so
good.
I think we sort of like go in with a prejudice against the episode and then are pleasantly surprised when it isn't bogged down with all of that bullshit.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, in fact, I think that oftentimes...
I think the Warren Light episodes tend to actually be a little more even.
Yeah.
Like this had moments... You know, a lot of the times when we're watching an episode from seasons, say, 2 through 12, the first 2 acts and the cold open are super fucking fun, and then we have no notes about anything that happens after minute 22 or so.
Cabot or Novak shows up, and we don't give a fuck after that, because who cares?
I think they pare down the peripheral cast to a fault.
Yeah.
In these seasons, but I do think that the episodes as a whole tend to work a little.
Yeah, this one was funny. I mean, how often do we get one that actually is funny?
Really funny.
Yeah.
Like, so much Finn Gold. For overall quality, I'd be inclined to say, like, at least a 7, maybe an 8.
Yeah, that's where I was too. I mean, we had an 8 on the Emily Deschanel episode, Surveillance.
I think this is as good as that.
Yeah, I think so too. Also, the Michael Pitt one. You know, it's different than those two, but I think
it's different, but it's still fun, and it's still like it's not like it's totally irrelevant either.
Agreed. And so I think that works. And then I think the guests are also a strong point with this one. I don't know if it's...
it's not one of those, like, stunt casting all-timers or anything like that, but it's got a, like, really broad cast of characters. Hank Abraham comes back. I think Kirk Acevedo's really good.
I think Annalie Ashford is really good.
There's not a single supporting character that stuck out as being bad to me.
No, not at all. I think they were all at least fine, if not better than fine.
Yeah, and I think that they're doing a lot of heavy lifting, introducing a lot of Barba backstory in a way that actually, you know, backstory episodes are not always interesting. Sometimes they're really fucking bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is actually really interesting Barba backstory.
Absolutely. What do you think, 6? I would say 6. Because
yeah, I'm fine with 6. I was thinking 6 or 7, but I'm fine with 6. I don't think it's, like, noteworthy, but I think it's really, like, workman-like.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where 6 is, right? Because it's like, I think 7 is where you aim high and maybe don't quite reach the top.
Right, or you at least have somebody who has like a really juicy part.
Yeah.
At least through the prism that we're watching everything, we're probably wanting for a little more insanity than is being presented here.
Yeah.
You know, Emily Ashford kind of is the only one that's doing anything that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
In a fun way.
Yeah, but she's fun.
And she is doing it, but she's also out of the episode at like minute 12.
Exactly. She's shipped off to Tel Aviv to run the Labor Party's campaigns. Now, you know, maybe she actually did because the Labor Party basically doesn't even exist anymore.
She ran them into the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we have to factor that. We have to factor that into the fallout, I guess.
Yeah, right. Okay, so how problematic was this episode?
Wildly.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did hypersexualize a 16-year-old, so that's definitely a problem.
We learned a lot about Finn's extracurricular activities.
We also know that Finn and Olivia and Rollins have seen Alejandro Munoz's junk. I'm not sure about everybody else. But
Barba also. Barba was definitely there. Yeah, I think Amaro probably saw it too.
Yeah.
They've all been damaged by Munoz's self-proclaimed
the full Munoz,
huge junk.
The huge Munoz.
There's a lot of great dick pic puns that are fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of dick pic puns. But
we've also got at least an arguable progressive being painted and a Cuban American at that.
A Cuban American progressive politician. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, not that doesn't pass the smell test at all. But we've also got a progressive Latino who is then embroiled in a fucking sexting scandal.
A pito pic scandal, you know. So.
Yeah, which is problematic.
Yeah, I mean, but
Well, no, I mean, it's problematic because we're instead of it being a white person, it's a minority. Yeah. I mean, it services the Barba backstory. But
yeah, exactly. You feel like they could have come up with it, like when they play shuffle the deck, right, with storylines. Like they could have been like, maybe we shouldn't do that one this time. I don't know, but
maybe we should find another way into this.
Yeah,
we're also dealing with a world in which foot fetish models are slovenly. I think that's problematic. Why paint these diligent sex workers who hand out or foot jobs? Why paint them in such a terrible light?
I know they are ruining her career, but you know what?
They're just trying to give pleasure, Adam.
Most of my knowledge of like foot fetishism comes from King of the Hill when Peggy Hill gets co-opted into being a foot fetish model.
That's fucking amazing.
And from what I learned from that episode, they're not necessarily into cleanliness, the fetishists. But okay.
Yeah, I mean, did you watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
No. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
so Josh.
Margaret Qualley's feet are disgusting.
They
are front and center for much of that movie.
Yeah, they are. They're really right in the middle of his dashboard, aren't they?
For a long, long, long time. Yeah, and she has dancer's feet in the worst possible way.
Yeah, he's driving her all over Southern California.
Oh yeah, from the center of Hollywood up to fucking Spawn Ranch, which is a long fucking ways.
So okay, how problematic is this, Josh? 6? 7? I don't think it's that high.
I'm inclined to say 7.
You think it's that high?
It's problematic in such fun ways, though.
It is fun.
All of the problematic elements of this episode are super fun, aside from the sort of the calculus that you have to do in painting a Latino character. But that's sort of the one knock again. Whoa, no, never mind. The underage. Okay, 6. I just 6. Yeah.
Because I mean, as soon as you stop thinking of him as being a Latino and you start thinking of him as being like a scumbag machine politician, it does ring true, right? I mean, it's
for sure.
They're bad people from all different kinds of races. Anthony Weiner is a minority, and he sent his dick to everyone that didn't want it. All right.
Are you calling Anthony Weiner a minority because he's a convicted sex offender?
No, he is. He's out of prison.
That's a minority, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he got out.
Yeah.
3 months were lopped off of his sentence.
Yeah. So, okay, last question. Depth and breadth of lives ruined. I don't think that too many people's lives were that deeply ruined by this.
Well,
according to Leslie Odom, the poor people of the cities, aren't going to have their savior. But I really have a hard time believing.
We also have the other bomb that's dropping where they send her off to Israel. They send Lindsay off to Israel to kill the Labor Party.
Yeah, I mean, so you could say that Netanyahu's run of electoral success is in many ways part of this episode.
Yeah.
So with that, all sorts of things. What at least
well, and
one
where did the Labor Party fall on the side of Palestinian human rights?
So they would be definitely firmly in the two-state solution camp, the Oslo Accord camp, which everybody officially is, and so it doesn't really mean anything because it's never going to happen. But they were definitely a lot less confrontational than the Netanyahu Likud party. I have to go back to 2013 to remember exactly what was going on with that. But at that point,
I think we can safely say that Netanyahu was a piece of shit then,
yes,
as he is still a piece of
shit.
shit.
There's been at least one war in Gaza since then, which possibly would have been averted had there been a more significant challenge to Netanyahu's rule.
So the potential of an averted genocide.
Oh yeah, I mean, apartheid.
Or not genocide, but
basically a prison with 2.5 million people inside.
Yeah. If not genocide, then light ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's definitely got notes of that at least.
Yeah.
So we got that going on. So, but I don't think the Labor Party was doing very well at this point, anyways. Because
probably not.
Yeah,
but she didn't help things.
Because I think at this point
she is unqualified.
Ehud Barak, who was the last Labor Party prime minister, I think was in Netanyahu's government at this point. So they'd already basically collapsed.
They're all soulless whores.
So let's see. Who else? Well, Leslie Odom's disappointed.
Yes, yeah.
But I have a hard time really believing that Munoz was going to do shit for anybody because he was such an obvious lightweight.
Just a craven Paul.
Yeah, exactly. It was so it was about getting elected, and then it was going to be, we're going to throw the next group of constituents under the bus while I run for the higher office next time.
Right. No, basically the Carcetti cycle playing itself out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't feel like Munoz losing the election really is going to deeply affect that many people.
But it did lead to de Blasio.
Indirectly. But I mean, de Blasio didn't seem like he was going to be such a shithead when he got elected. He seemed like he was an all right guy. Maybe his problem was that he didn't have enough dick pics out there. So, okay, who else's life got ruined? Okay, obviously the Munoz family.
Yeah. Eddie's family. Was it Eddie Garcia?
Yeah. Is Eddie going to jail, though? I don't think he is.
No, Queen for a day. He turned out.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, Eddie doesn't have his job anymore.
Barbara's mom probably doesn't feel good about him anymore if she's still alive.
I mean, maybe, but at the same time,
And also, the neighborhood would frown upon Barba, although I guess
I don't think so. I think
there's not a universal sort of
There
Cuban.
is in a Cuban neighborhood, A. Yeah. But B, I think that they would more frown on Enrique Trouble's dick pics, which would definitely have leaked to the internet by now.
No, I think the Pope is okay with dick pics. if you have enough political suction.
Yeah. It was the old Pope at that point, so they could like
it was still Benny.
Yeah. I don't think this rises above a 2. Maybe a 1.
You're really, really dismissing Palestinian human rights here.
Okay, be that as it may, it's a very tangential outcome from this. I guess we do have...
Well, we haven't talked about the 15-year-old.
That's what I was going to say. There was an actual 16-year-old girl who was
victimized here. Yeah. Who was victimized here,
by the showrunners.
Yeah. So that bumps it up to at least I would say a 3.
Okay, we can give it a 3 for that one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's one victim and not that much happened to her, but it's still... I don't think you can get away with basically violating a minor like this and not have it be higher than a
what did we give 3. To the
she's really tangential to the episode.
Yes,
although she's not tangential to Anthony Weiner's ultimate fate. But
in the Michael K. Williams episode where we saw this happen before, Underbelly, which we covered in Tramp Stamp Stop and Frisk,
there are so many more people murdered in that episode.
Yeah, but we only gave it a 6. Which I don't know why we only gave it a 6, because in that one, that chick was 14 who was being hypersexualized. What I find interesting that we didn't give it higher, I'll give it a 3. 3 works.
I think this is a 3.
Yeah. Okay, 3. That gives it a 5.75. That puts it right in line with the Emily Deschanel one that we just watched, where she's the cellist. Surveillance. I get that. Also, it's right in line with
which we haven't edited, right?
No, we haven't edited yet.
But that'll be episode...
That'll be 35. Also, Abomination was a 5.75. I was going to say the guy's scared stiff. That was the George Siegel, Jonathan Tucker one.
Yeah.
Daphne Zuniga. I gotta go. I gotta deadlift my grandmother-in-law up some stairs.
Buddy.
So I gotta get on that. But I will talk to you soon,
nope.
Josh. What
Nope,
we got?
nope.
Oh, we got to roll the next episode.
Yes,
Oops.
we have to roll the next episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Important.
Enter Bill and Ted in phone booth. Again, we're at episode.lol. The videotape is spinning, and it has chosen for us Choice.
Ooh.
This is season 5, episode 7. The overview is after a man is arrested for attacking his pregnant wife and then seeks to have her charged with neglect for drinking during her pregnancy, Benson learns that this is not the first time a child has been exposed to the devastating repercussions of the woman's uncontrolled alcoholism. This episode features Josie Bassett, along with Beverly D'Angelo, Callie Thorne, and Shirley Jones.
Ooh.
So, weird throwback actresses.
Yeah. Quite the mixture.
Yeah, I know Beverly D'Angelo and Callie Thorne are lawyers in the show because they are recurring. Yeah, so, I don't know. Could be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, this is from 2003, going back to season 5. Cool.
Well, I can't wait, Josh, but again, I gotta get rolling.
Yes. Until next time.
Munch my Benson, guys.
And munch my Benson.
What? Everyone thinks we should just let this go?
Come on, Munoz sends out some selfies. That's not a sex crime. All I know is I don't want to see any more of them.
Right, it's not just selfies. All right, this clown could be mayor. He opened himself up to blackmail. Right, Eddie had cash. Where'd he get it from? Huh? This could just be the tip of the iceberg.
I think we saw more than just the tip.
Even if you're right, this is a political corruption case. We'd have to hand it over to the feds anyway.
What are we going to hand over? The pics he sent to Rollins?
It looks like I'm not the only one. Enrique Trouble is popping up on other sites. It goes back over a year. Look, I found 10 so far.
That makes him a dog, not a criminal.
Except one of these women that he was sexting with just got an executive position at the New York Gaming Commission.
I wonder who could have pulled those strings.
Anna Bertard. She have any governmental background?
Doesn't seem like it.
Hold up. I've seen this girl on the screen before, and it wasn't C-SPAN.